Hello everybody, and welcome back to the channel, or welcome to the channel if you're new here. My name is Death by Pony. Today we're hopping back into our life. So without further ado, let's hop in. Alright, back in we go. Once he'd wrangled himself into control, Baxter flashed you a grin, though it was quickly lost in its playful oomph as his eyes remained extra lidded. He had something in mind, but he also seemed fairly content to simply gaze at you languidly. Baxter lifted his coffee and pressed the edge of the cup to his lips. He took a slow sip before putting it down. Baxter wrapped an arm against the table so he could sit with his chin up. Normally that would have been a casual gesture, but anyone watching could tell that he desperately needed extra help keeping his head upright.
Is that fine?
Before food arrives and steals all your attention away, would it be fine to ask a question? Oh, sure, ask away. What exactly is the event you have on the horizon? It's nothing crazy, just gonna see my aunt and uncle. I'm looking forward to seeing them, but I'm already missing Lee. Who's Lee? My cousin, their daughter. They're about the same age and we're friends, but she won't be there this time. She's busy. His response was cut off by another yawn, and with that morphed into a wince. Baxter tried to smooth things with a sweet smile.
I'm sorry.
I promise that was not me being bored. He blinked, and it was hilariously obvious that his eyelids didn't easily unstick. You bit down the inside of your cheek and tried not to laugh. That's alright, you tried. Exactly, please continue. Yeah. Out of my aunt and uncle, it's my uncle who I'm directly related to. He's my mom's younger brother. We all get along. That's part of my extended family we're closest with, well, in terms of location. Laughing, you scratched the back of your head while you explained. Baxter nodded along, focusing on the sound of your voice. His smile softened. Oh, why am I yawning? Oh my god. His smile softened as you grew more animated, speaking about your family. It's not that I also don't have a good relationship with everyone on Ma's side, but they mainly live in Hawaii, so it's a lot harder to go see them in person. And grandparents used to be in California when me and Liz were little, so they could help out. But that was temporary, and yeah, it's nice having family that we can see more often. Your voice trailed off with fond thought about your family, and then your eyes snapped open wide. All Baxter did was ask about your plans for the day, and somehow you ended up rambling about so much more. Sorry for getting off topic. Nonsense, I enjoyed listening to everything you shared.
Thank you.
Thank you for telling me about your family. It was lovely to hear about them. I think it's a relief most people around already know all about that, so it's been a while since I've gotten to talk about it. I'm glad I could offer you that opportunity. The waitress returned with your order. She placed it carefully on the table. Enjoy. Thank you. You didn't waste a single second and gave it a taste. It was good. Since you had basically covered everything about what you were doing later, you didn't need to juggle thinking, talking, and eating, just as Baxter intended. It was nice to preoccupy yourself with this treat. Baxter, meanwhile, only had his coffee and was actually aware of that difference. Baxter pinched the inside of his lip between his teeth while he tried to search through his foggy thoughts for something to say. He wanted to be good company, but he wasn't sure how to accomplish that. Oh, I know. How about I tell you about what happened while I was on my trip? Yes, spill the details.
In
In that case, Baxter sat up straight in his chair and considered how he wanted to begin the story. His focused mindset momentarily overcame the tiredness that clung to him. As you know, I traveled to Northern California, and I was monumental drive, several hours for me, myself, and the road. That car was wonderful. It got me there and here again without a single issue when I had every reason to rebel against all of the potholes I accidentally hit. Oh yeah, California and potholes. Bad. Baxter paused on that note and took a drink of his coffee. He placed the cup down on the table and winced. It's somewhat silly now that I'm vocalizing it, but I feel a tinge of guilt for all the miles I've managed to put on that vehicle over the course of this vacation. Sighing deeply, Baxter wore a wistful look, and you understood the magnitude of his trip. Hopefully the rental company didn't have extra charges for that. On a brighter note, the drive was even more scenic than I imagined. It was a shame I couldn't snap a single picture. I still am grateful that I was able to leisurely travel across the state while I was here. Yeah, I bet it must have been an incredible marathon of sights. And all that fuss to see some old family friends. Believe it or not, they're actually people my parents have known since, well, before I was even alive. Wow. Wow, indeed, I can't even imagine knowing somebody for that many years, though between you and me, I don't have much of a relationship with them myself. Really, but you went completely out of your way to see them. I know, they've always been fond of me, almost as if I was their own nephew. They're more than happy to open their door to me given the chance. This might surprise you, or perhaps not, but I managed to get along famously with an older set.
So,
So it was only polite to make a social call while I was in the relative area, and there was plenty to catch up on and discuss while I was there. We've even happened to catch some fantastic shows. It's nice you enjoy the trip. You enjoyed the trip within your trip. Baxter's nose scrunched as he chuckled. He took another quick sip of his drink. I can't agree more. The two of you continued to chat about upcoming plans while finishing your drinks. Also in between several more extended and definitely yawns at Baxter. Eventually he glanced towards the window, and his brows pinched as he didn't say anything on his own, so you asked, "What's wrong?"
well,
I'm worried that I might be keeping you too long from your other plans. No, it's not too late yet. I don't want there to be a yet. Your family is important. Do you want to get going then? Yeah, that would be for the best. He turned in his seat until he caught where the waitress had gone. Baxter waved, and she returned a minute later. Could we please have the check? You proceeded the gesture to cover it. It'll be one ticket. You've got it. I'll get that for you right away. As soon as the waitress was out of sight, Baxter let out another yawn, but it morphed into a frustrated groan. I'm getting fairly sick of that. His tone didn't sugarcoat a single feeling. Pouting, Baxter crossed his arms, tight-shut eyes. Unfortunately, coffee can only do so much. Baxter only murmured and roughly rubbed the sides of his face. His frustration manifested visible as grimace. I can't distinctly feel my own eyeballs in my skull due to the strain. His hands dropped onto the table and glasses rattled softly. That only made his mood worsen. I hate that. I should have been so aware of my own presence. I shouldn't have to be so aware of my own presence in this body. Oh no, you snorted. Sorry, Baxter. You patted him on the shoulder. That's the worst. Shoulder pat. You wanted to help him, but there wasn't anything else that you could really do. Baxter cracked an eye open at your gesture. You've been more than gracious for sitting through my complaints. Don't mind. It would be better if I could do more. No, you've done more than enough. I shall live through it. You smiled, and Baxter genuinely tried to match it, despite how he was feeling. The waitress approached once more with a small black folder and placed it on the center of the table. Can I clear any of this away for you? No rush if you're not ready. Take it all. We're about to leave. The waitress got right to work, gathering up cups. Baxter, meanwhile, picked up the folder and opened it. After a few moments, the server was off again, and Baxter peeked at you at the top of the folder. Thank you, James. I do appreciate you making time for me at the very last minute, especially on a day where you were already so busy. Nah, thank you for inviting me. Of course, it's always a treat to see you. But Baxter's half-little gaze lingered contentedly while he reached in his pocket. And then those tired eyes snapped open. He reached the alertness he'd been striving for in an instant. My wallet. He stared at you hopelessly. Baxter was sobered, extremely aware reality found himself in. I didn't bring my wallet when I got dressed. I did not recall to take my wallet off the nightstand. Oh, that's fine. It's fine. I'm not surprised considering how hectic things were. Darn, I hate it when that happens. Aha! That means it will be my treat. I'm not surprised, considering how hectic things this morning. Maybe it's a good thing it's at home. That's better than forgetting it here at the restaurant, which might have happened instead. It was intended to be a reassuring thought, but Baxter didn't respond. His expression remained frozen in horror. Understandably, Baxter was mortified. He put his fingers through his hair. I'll quickly run back and get it returned, but then I have to abandon you here, and that's not any better. Perhaps they might take an electronic payment I could send through my phone. Take it easy. You got a black coffee, not 4-course meal. I can cover for you. The corner of his mouth twitched, and you read it as a sign that he had at least heard you, though you supposed it was only because he had reached a dead end in his own ability to solve this problem. Baxter pressed his palm against his eyes, and fingers curled tightly. He then released a slow, shaky breath. He reached out, only to freeze halfway across the table. From his tense body language, he was trying with great difficulty to keep himself from getting truly upset. You shouldn't push him. You weren't sure how to help or what to do. You only watched as he exhaled deeply once more, and this time he lowered his hands, folding them neatly on the table. I would appreciate that greatly. He couldn't quite look at you while he spoke, though the forced politeness in his tone reached you completely. Good, this morning. This is nothing. I got you. He collected the check, and he dropped in panic and slid your card into when the waitress swung by. You handed it over. There was no trouble to be found at this table. Thanks a bunch. Just one moment. She walked off, and you shifted your attention to Baxter. In a brief period, his shoulders had lost their defeated slump, and he sat there stiffly upright instead. He studied your reaction with a delicate smile. Please don't misunderstand. I am entirely fine. The issue is with my behavior towards you. You don't need to force yourself to make me feel better. It was my mistake. His lips pressed into a fine line, and it was crystal clear that he was preemptively stopping you from further okaying the situation. Your gaze dropped to the tabletop. His awkwardness was too stifling to do anything else. Larry Baxter was beating himself up, for a perfectly normal misstep was horrible. You didn't like it at all. There was a reason why people called these kinds of situations accidents, because there was no manipulative or malicious intent. The only crime today was being human and sleepy. It wouldn't have been great to remind him of all that, but Baxter was far too irked to hear any of it. He wanted to move on, so you bookmarked things there. The outing wrapped up in a haze, and the waitress returned your card and wished you both a wonderful day. Then you left. Baxter managed to muster up a few things to discuss on the car ride home, but the conversation was distant and disjointed from how you both normally clicked. You made your way home safely, though not before silence had time to form. Slamming of his door to exit the vehicle was the first you heard from Baxter in a while. The two of you stood on the street, face to face. Awkwardness from the cafe had almost come along for the ride and lingered forebodingly. This wasn't something you wanted to continue between you and him. Neither of you made a move to leave, a promising sign. He was struggling with the same thought. Baxter began sliding his fingers through his hair, but he paused mid-motion and dug his nails into his scalp. His controlled expression strained.
I'm sorry.
James, this is all my fault. Not only forgotten my wallet, but I made things increasingly worse by acting immature about it, undoubtedly making you uncomfortable. I may be hard to believe at this point, but I often can deal with unexpected issues as a reasonable adult. Today stung a little more than usual. I'm big enough to admit that it certainly did not help that all of this was coming on the heels of an already disastrous first impression. I had been hopeful that I could still fix the overall impression by the end. Needless to say, I didn't succeed. I completely understand if you were doubting the merit of a friendship with me at this point. I presented myself terribly to you. However, if you are willing to, I would like to ask for a second chance. I can take you out again for drinks tomorrow night, or rather, any night you have free. I promise the next one will be better. The dusting of a blush rose in his cheeks while he barreled through anything he needed to say before you could get a single word in. Finally, Baxter paused to breathe. You blinked, trying to absorb the magnitude of everything he'd said. Now that he laid all his cards on the table, there was nothing left to do but anxiously wait. Above all else, he acknowledged he'd wedged an open space for you to talk, and that was a relief. There was nothing terrible about what you did. Don't feel bad about it. You have nothing to try. You don't have to try so hard to impress me. I had a great time today. I'd love to do something with you again. You know, I didn't understand, Lily.
Really?
Really? Yeah, why wouldn't I? I know you're embarrassed it happened, but I don't feel the same way. We had fun, with a few problems that all worked out. Ah, you are far too kind. His gaze was gentle, if only a single look. Baxter swiftly resumed his usual grin and confidence.
Well.
I'll be in touch later with specific time then, and potentially suggestions for what you might want to wear. Have a lovely rest of your day with your family. Tell your mothers and sister I said hello. I will. Excellent. See you again soon. He waved goodbye and earnestly seemed to be in much better mood that only a few minutes ago you waved to. Eventually, though his turned back couldn't see. Bye. He sadly walked home, and once he was safely inside, you couldn't hold your frown any longer. All morning, Baxter acted as if he had to be the one who needed to earn approval. To him, you weren't individuals getting to know each other. He was an outsider who had jumped through hoops or be excluded. That was the impression you'd gotten. Worse, it was more than upsetting. Maybe he took it that hard because he was so tired. That felt like wishful thinking, but you thought so anyway. It was possible Baxter would be more comfortable after he rested. As if he wasn't, then you hoped that he would allow you to show him that your company didn't have to be like that. The rest of the day was focused on your family, and it all went over great. It was nice spending the afternoon with your aunt and uncle, Moms, and Liz. And you remembered to tell them Baxter said hi. You were half asleep when you finally made it home and collapsed onto your bed. Soon morning had come again. The afternoon followed, moving strangely fast and slow because you knew there was another outing to get drinks with Baxter at the end of it. Exactly as promised, you received text with a set hour to meet him at his condo. Baxter informed you that it was going to be late when you'd be leaving, so he'd recommended that you have dinner as usual. Apparently, his place did not serve meals, only drinks and appetizers. Interesting. Along with that, Baxter made the eyebrow-raising suggestion that you wear formal attire. Even more interesting. He included an assurance that he'd be prepared when you were ready to leave. During dinner, you mentioned that you were going out for drinks with Baxter later. Your moms were still commenting on your plans when you left to get ready. Even a few teasing remarks over the dress code floated upstairs with you. When you opened your drawer, your mind was made up. You'd wear something formal, casual. You'd spent most of your dinner trying to find middle ground between comforting and the embarrassment of overdressing. After digging through your options, you were confident you'd piece together the perfect outfit. There was a few minutes left before you had to leave, so you made sure you had everything you might need while you were out. You ran through the essentials: phone, house keys, money, ID. As bad as you felt for Baxter, you didn't want to run into a similar problem of forgetting something important. It was a good reminder for both of you to be careful. Once you knew it was all there, you went downstairs and waved to your moms on the way out of the house. Their goodbyes and well wishes reached you as you locked up. You walked down the street and arrived at Baxter's house. Quite literally, seconds after ringing the doorbell, you heard the rattle of the doorknob turning. The door casually opened, not too fast, not too slow, and there was the threshold. At the threshold was Baxter, though this time he wasn't in his pajamas, but instead a full suit that was naturally also black and white. Hello, thank you for coming. Glancing at yourself, you frowned. So much for great compromise. Baxter, in comparison, with an entirely different level of formality. You should have known he wouldn't hold back.
You're very
You found
good.
a fantastic ensemble for the event. Really? Absolutely. I think you're dressed wonderfully, and I swear I am not taking you anywhere strange. Strangers will titter about your choice. Formality is merely for the fun of it. Thanks, I was hoping it wouldn't disappoint.
Never.
You disappoint me? I don't imagine that possible. That suit looks very good on you, and this suits you. So you brought a full suit for summer vacation? Kind of hoped you'd be in pajamas again. You waved to him in greeting. Looks very good on you. Baxter smoothed the front of his jacket and had enough experience to know just how charming he looked in his formal attire, and he wore it proudly. But that sight suddenly paled in comparison. He brightened like your compliment was true badge of honor.
Glad to hear it.
Thank you very much. I'm always thrilled when an opportunity arises to wear it. Now that you'd gotten a good eyeful, you could discern that Baxter was truly himself. The exhaustion and the embarrassment from yesterday's morning adventure were entirely removed from his features. Have you been? You're definitely an IO. It's nice to see you got some rest. You were glad, but still slightly worried about what happened before. Glad to see you got some rest. Thank you for noticing. He flicked a stray hair into place and winked. You laughed at his playful display. I'm feeling quite rested this evening, so there shouldn't be any pesky yawning or interference. Okay, let's just take a sec to look at this man. Well, a lot of the black blends together right now because it was a nighttime scene. Man, just 10 out of 10. Perfect. If anybody felt bonita, it would be this man. So, let's get back into this. Feeling quite rested this evening, so there shouldn't be any pesky yawning interrupting
No.
us. Shall we go? This is something we'd want This isn't something we want to be late for. Lead the way. So you both climbed into his car and were off. Baxter drove you out of the neighborhood and your attention lingered on the starry sky for a moment, able to see a good view of the moon until you took a lazy turn. When you turned back to Baxter, his expression a little sad. He still offered no obvious hints about your destination. The only thing you could count on was that the place would serve some sort of liquid, probably. So, why recommended formal wear? Well, he diligently stared at the road, not yet out of residential street of Sunset Bird. You caught a glimpse of his excitement as he continued talking. If you recall, I mentioned how we saw some shows while on my trip within a trip. You could call it that my inspiration. Once you graciously accepted my invitation, I began the endeavor to search for a particular performance we could see together. I had high hopes for that, for what I could manage, even with such short notice, and happily, I doubt you shall be disappointed. He let his words settle, drumming up the anticipation. Coincidentally, the car rolled to a stop at a light. He turned to you with a proud grin. Tonight we'll be seeing a live show featuring comedy of error-style romance. His foot pressed on the gas and he turned on the main road. A show? It wasn't anything you were expecting, but then again, it was Baxter. You were getting the impression he liked to surprise you. Wait. What about drinks? Unless there's a cafe in the middle of a theater, that was a very misleading invitation. No cafe, but Baxter's smile grew in expected reaction. They do serve drinks and an excellent selection for what I found, and it will only be drinks. There's no food on the menu. He shrugged his shoulders, not particularly finding that you'd be a loss. You were glad you weren't hungry. However, as promised, the drinks are crucial to the experience. You'll see this isn't at some grand arena. You'll find tonight's entertainment is a spectacularly immersive setting of a jazz bar. All patrons will be witnessing the story unfold in that very room. His voice lowered theatrically, so fitting. Fitting for the topic of conversation.
Does that sound
Also,
alright?
if you'd like, it's possible for those actors to interact with you directly. Seriously, that's amazing. Thank you, Baxter. It must not have been easy to get tickets. Oh, that sounds social. How very Baxter Ward of you. That's amazing. You never heard of anything like that in the era. You wonder how Baxter found it. It sounded like so much fun. He let a single gleeful chuckle and brightened considerably.
Excellent.
I thought you'd appreciate it, and so fortunate that they were having a performance tonight. No kidding, it was perfect. You couldn't wait to get there. You pictured the place, figuring it'd look classy. Maybe there'd be a band in the corner and elaborately dressed actors right out of an old noir movie. Ooh. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and if you did, remember to hit like. That way I know you're enjoying the videos, and remember to subscribe. That way YouTube brings you back here to see what's next, and I won't take up any more of your time. Have a good day, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye.